Here's my advice for applying to college in 2025, because this cycle is completely different than the rest. Things are changing and you have to be up to date with the best current strategy. So I'm going to show you the 4 most important things to keep in mind this year. First of all, test scores are coming back. Since last year, there has been a tendency to eliminate the test optional option for applying to college. If you don't know, back then in 2020, because of the pandemic and lockdown, test optional became a thing, which meant that you didn't have to send in test scores to apply to college. But now that we're off of the pandemic and lockdown, since in 2024 and 2025, it started coming back, right? That's mainly just because standardized tests are actually a pretty good metric on deciding which students to accept. It levels up the playing field because there are schools, like high schools, that have grade inflation or are way harder than the rest, and just having a standardized test just levels up the playing field and kind of makes the application even more holistic, even if it's like counterintuitive. And this didn't only apply like for the SAT, it's also for the ACT, just test scores in general. And if you're asking like which one should you take, I think the one that's like easier for you. Both are like a pain in the ass to study for, so you might as well just do the one that's easiest. For me, it was the SAT. I mean, I was international, I couldn't even take the ACT. But if you can, just take a practice test for both of them and choose the one that's easier for you. But then there are still colleges that haven't really eliminated test optional. For example, Amherst, right? They still have test optional, but should you send your scores or not? Well, I'd say 100% send them in. Because let's say you have 2 students, right? Here are 2 of them. One of them has a 15-20 and the other one has no SAT. They're exactly the same extracurriculars, same essay, same everything. But you have to accept one of them. Obviously, you choose this one because they have more evidence that they are qualified to get into the college. So because of this, you have to be one of them and not one of these ones. Now, if you're thinking about what score should you aim at, you might look up like the score percentages or percentile for each college, and you'll find the 25th, the 50th, and the 75th percentile. It might look something like this, like 1510, 1550, and 1570, something like that. A lot of people think that you should be aiming for like the 50th percentile or 75th. I don't believe this is necessary. I just think that doesn't make a difference. You just have to be up here in the top 75%, because think about it. From the 50th percentile and 25th, there are 25% of applicants that got accepted that were in between these scores. At this point, from the 25th percentile, it doesn't matter. That's just like the baseline they accept. And after that, it's not really about the test scores. So just aim for the 25 and then just apply to college and send your scores in if you can. If you can't get them in, well, don't dream that you'll get in because it's going to be way harder for you. Now, the second thing I want to tell you is that there's a new way to show identity. Back a couple of years back, or during these years, affirmative action kind of disappeared. And there are new ways to distinguish students and make diversity statements that isn't only geography. Because as you may know, there have been lawsuits and a lot of drama regarding college admissions with affirmative action. People were being discriminated for living in Asia, for example, or just being Asian in the US and other different situations. And that just kind of doesn't exist anymore. So colleges are still wanting to be diverse, but they can't discriminate based on geography or ethnicity. So context now means everything. Again, we're not talking about geography. We're talking about personal context. And this is because the only way to get diversity, if it's not like this, is just personality-wise. People that are themselves, that are different, will create a well-rounded class of exceptional people. So now, if you want to be diverse, don't look at being like ethnically diverse. Look at being you. Just like your unique self, your specific context. You have to really talk about in your essays or show through your application that you are different because of your experiences, because of everything you lived through. Because everyone's different. And now diversity is shown in that way. They don't want well-rounded students, they want a well-rounded class that's diverse. And they want different topics and different areas that people will end up studying, so you get a well-rounded class that's exceptional, right? Then you have the FGLI advantage. And if you don't know what FGLI means, FG is first generation. So your parents didn't get any higher education, just high school, and that's it. Or maybe not even that, but they just didn't go to college, right? And LI means low income. In general, this just means that you qualify for a Pell Grant. That's it. Because colleges need like a clear specification on who is low income and who isn't. So if you are first generation or low income, you should check the box that asks you as hard as you can, literally. Because in my opinion, and I don't think it's my opinion, I think it's like a reality for most colleges, that first generation, for example, I believe it's now stronger than legacy for some colleges. Because they love come-up stories. They love underdog stories of people that are just coming in to basically boost their family to something they've never achieved. And for example, if Harvard has a chance to boost a student up and their family and make them successful thanks to the college, then they will take the opportunity. And first generation and low income are really good ways to distinguish someone that they could really help, especially if they are qualified based on test scores and other stuff like that. It's actually really important. So if you are FGLI, 100% say it in your application and check the box. And the last thing you gotta understand at this point is that honest storytelling wins. You have to be honest and you have to be authentic. This is a huge part of college admissions nowadays. Being authentic. Why? Well, in the last couple of years, and I wouldn't say last couple of years, I'd say like decades, people have done, like, to get accepted into top colleges, just things that sound good. Like volunteering, maybe beach cleanup, maybe a nonprofit, maybe just get a random internship and be a leader of some clubs in your school. Like that's the kind of thing people were doing. And it worked for quite a long time, but now everyone does it. Everyone. And you have to be different. And the way to be different is to not do these things, or maybe do them, but just so that they make sense with your story. If everyone does these things, the one that's gonna stand out is the one that doesn't do them. That is just authentic. And I got this realization like really recently when I saw an essay of a girl that, like, their Common App essay, and she got into Brown, right? Her essay was all about how she really liked writing fan fictions for a musical she liked. That was her Common App essay. And she got into Brown. And when I read that, I was extremely shocked. Extremely shocked. Because I couldn't imagine that someone could have gotten into Brown with that essay. But you can. And it's actually the most optimal way of getting in. Just being yourself, saying stupid stuff, being 17, 18 years old. Being willing to talk about maybe embarrassing stuff is probably your best shot. And that's why honest storytelling has been winning a lot recently. And I don't think that's ever gonna stop. I think that this tendency is gonna go just way up. And in the next couple of years, we'll see applicants getting in that we have never expected. So I think that you should 100% take this into consideration, writing your essays or just applying in general. Just learn how to show your identity that way. And now the third point that I actually couldn't really believe at first is that AI is reading applications and it's being used inside the admissions office. So basically, it's not like they just review your whole thing, it's that they do the first step. Not all colleges have this, but again, they're starting to integrate it. They are going to discriminate at least the first part, like a proofread, if you're even worth analyzing or considering for the college. It just takes into consideration the most basic things, and then it tells like the admissions officer, like, yeah, continue with this. That's what they are doing with AI. Like, this is not being done by people right now. And you'd say like, oh, this is actually really bad because nobody's actually reading my application maybe, like what's going on? Well, I think it's pretty good because you can use AI yourself to take advantage of this and kind of use their system to your advantage. So what I recommend my students is that they hop on ChatGPT, and you don't need premium for this specifically. It's just something that you can do. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna open up ChatGPT and you're gonna tell it that you have to simulate an admissions office, right? And you're gonna have 3 admissions officers. And you're gonna ask it for the dialogue. You have 3 admissions officers. One of them roots for you, one of them hates you, and the other one is kind of neutral, right? Just middle ground. And then you're gonna make them talk about your application. And how you're gonna make that is that you will be sending in everything that you will send through the Common App or external information. So you will tell the AI your GPA, your test scores, you'll send them your essays, and you'll send them your extracurriculars. Basically everything you can send them. Obviously, you might not be able to send in your recommendations, but that's fine. That you can say, I got really good recommendations, I can't send them, and that's fine. They're gonna understand. I mean, it's AI, right? Then, so that it knows the criteria to consider you on, you have to send in the common data set. So the CDS also. Most colleges have one, and it's basically a document that they're reporting everything about the admissions that year. The colleges that do it every year for every admission cycle, and you can check them out. They are public, and they say the criteria they use to choose students and the statistics in general. That way, you can train ChatGPT to think like an admissions officer for that college. And with that and your information, you'll have a full analysis of everything that you have, so that maybe you can find things that you are lacking or things that you can frame differently, and you're probably not going to notice that yourself. I've seen some of my students try this out, and they get feedback that not even I could think about. And when I read it, it's like, oh yeah, obviously, right? It's actually a pretty good tool. So if the admissions office is using them, you should use them too, but just like this way. It's not a good idea to make AI write your essays. Like, if you're gonna write your essays with AI, that's a big red flag, and colleges can tell. Like, I can tell. I've only been reading essays for like a couple of years, and I can instantly tell if an essay is written by AI, instantly. So imagine if you're an admissions officer that reads thousands of applications a day. Like, there's no way you're pulling it off. No way. And lastly, I really wanna talk about yield. So if you don't know what yield rates are, yield rate is basically the percentage of students that commit to a college or enroll to a college after getting accepted. If you think about it, a lot of students get accepted and don't end up going to the college. Like, if you get accepted to 10 colleges, you can only go to one, right? But the yield rate is the percentage of students that enroll to a college after being accepted. And colleges obviously want this to be as high as possible. It makes rankings go up. They get more people interested, and there are also other reasons. For example, UChicago is a huge example of this. So what they do is that they really care about their yield, but not specifically because they won the rankings, because they are a really good institution. Like, they're one of the best schools in the world. It's not about that. It's really because they're a really niche college. They have a really specific culture that may not fit everyone, and a lot of people end up going to UChicago and don't like it. It could be because of the curriculum and the structure or the culture itself, but since it's so like quirky and weird, then they just want students that fit that culture, and they want to make sure that if you're going to apply, at least you are going to go. And there are two ways that you can demonstrate this. First of all, it's demonstrated interest, and you can tell if a college cares about demonstrated interest with their common data set. If they have one, they will say it in there. And this basically means that you exist for the college before applying. So that would mean showing up to webinars, sending emails, maybe doing a program like visiting the college in person, stuff like that. That just shows demonstrated interest, and it shows that you want to go into the college, you're interested, and if you're investing hours of your time to just do a college tour, then that's a good sign that you might go if you get accepted, right? That's one of the things. But a lot of colleges, especially the most competitive ones, say they don't really care about this. But it's not that true. Like, yes, they don't care about emails and stuff like that, but they do care about ED or EA strategy. UChicago doesn't make this information public, but it's pretty common knowledge that they accept more than half of their class from early decision, which means that you have a binding application that if you get in, you have to go to the college, which again means that yield's gonna go way up. Because if you're promising that you're gonna go to the college, if accepted, like legally promising, then that's really good for yield. And that's why UChicago really cares about it. And also you have early action, which you can apply to multiple early action colleges, but it's not really that strong of a difference. You're just gonna get your decision early. Like, that's it. You have to apply earlier, but you will get your decision early, which in my opinion is actually really good. If you can apply to a college early action, just go into it. I think it's a really good idea. But for early decision, just make sure that you can pay the college. You can use their calculator for prices if you don't know if you can pay it or not. And just make sure that you actually love the place and you would go if accepted. Because it could bring real consequences if you don't respect the early decision agreement. So just make sure that you actually love the college, that you'd go there if accepted, and like, that's it. With that, you can apply your decision, it's fine. But you can really take advantage of this. And again, UChicago accepts way more people. Also, one thing I've seen as a counter argument for this is that early decision doesn't make that big of a difference, because right there you have your athletes that were gonna get accepted anyways, like they're recruited, and then you have the excellent students that maybe would get likely letters, but it's not really like that. It actually is better to apply early decision, just in general. Maybe it won't give you that much of a boost. Maybe it's not like 3 times as likely that you get into a like Dartmouth or whatever, but it does raise your chances. And you can look it up. A lot of common data sets, not U Chicago, but a lot of common data sets show the difference of students that they accept for early decision compared to regular decision, which is applying normally with a non-binding condition. Now you know the 4 most important changes that are going on in college admissions this year. And this doesn't mean that these 4 things are necessarily new. Some of them, like AI, has been happening since last year. Then the affirmative action stuff has been going on for a couple of years already. Test scores have been coming back since last year. And yield has been important since like the beginning of time. But this year, specifically, it's more important than ever. And I think these things are gonna be a trend that are gonna continue to go up in the next couple of years. So right now, you're just getting this knowledge early. And if you want more help, you can always click the link in the description or the pinned comment to book a one-on-one call with me so we can build a strategy together and apply this information for your specific case. And after watching this video, I think you should feel way more comfortable going into this application cycle. I know it can be really stressful to apply to college. It is really stressful, like it's a pain in the ass. But with this, you should be more comfortable, at least knowing what's going on and taking advantage of the new stuff that a lot of people just don't know. So I hope this was useful to you, and I'll be catching you in the next video.